All right, we'll do the official intro in a second here, but yeah, I was a little bit delayed today getting to Zeke's school, so I told him that we could open one of these 151 packs. They're actually like kind of all the rage right now. Simon Seamus beats me. Like you can see here, this 6-pack right now is currently $70 market rate.
Crazy. Oh my
God. What?
So obviously we have 2 more of them over there because we're going to hang on to them and not open them and kind of see if we can resell them later on. Yeah. So I'm trying to teach him a little bit. Yeah. You can get in the background, Zeke.
I'll have you looking fresh with that. You looking fresh with that denim jacket there, Zeke. Dang.
So I told him we could open one and we actually were going to wait for mom to do it as well.
Yo, if I had $70 as a kid to open Pokemon cards, I felt like I would be rich.
Right?
Like,
well, okay, so here's the backstory, and I like to maybe share like even with the audience here. Like, obviously, like I had a binder from like 25 years ago, so I still have all these cards. Actually, Zeke, that big stack right there, I can show everybody. And I think this is kind of a cool like full circle moment about like just like consistency or keeping up with things. Just grab all of them, the whole stuff. And so we get this like kind of, you know, experience together and kind of looking back. And as I had a buddy reach out to me yesterday or on just, grab a stack. I don't care. He was like, hey, there's a card show. And so like we learned like proper card etiquette with all these ones that were just like sitting in a binder. All these ones were ones that like guys that are like collecting them were like kind of like geeking out about, and it was kind of this cool moment between he and I. So
that's awesome, dude. Awesome bonding. Awesome bond. All right, open this thing up. Let's see what
cards, but these are my 2 favorite.
Wait, they can't see you, bro. You got it. Here, stand on.
See, get up here, dog. Get up here.
You'll be as if you and your sister don't already stand on stuff.
Stand on stuff.
But you should.
These are my 2 favorite cards. I like this one.
The Pikachu. Okay, that looks fresh.
Yeah,
Charizard.
Charizard X2.
That was like one of the first one he pulled yesterday, so he's stoked about that.
So does he have the Zeke? Do you have the iPad like Game Boy emulator for your?
No, my iPad died completely. I don't have one anymore.
Yeah, his iPad. Oh yeah, his iPad died on Friday too. So, all right, dude.
Let's open this up.
It's amazing.
Dad, should I open it with my teeth, or you want to open it?
No, it's you, dude. So.
All right, Zeke. When I'm in Vegas in a few weeks, I'm getting you some packs. Okay,
Oh,
we'll open packs together.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. You'll be here in a month. All right. What'd you get?
I think. Okay, gotta take this card out first. Usually at the end, they're super rare ones.
Well, let's hope so. So. All right.
Well, show it to the camera, man. There you go. That's the OG.
OG EV.
Wow, this is bringing back such memories.
That's like OG as well. I don't know. Yeah, that's a Caterpillar one. The Weedle, yeah.
Weedle. We got a Zubat.
That's the bat. Yeah, I know that one. I know that one.
Ooh, this one's cool.
So this is 151. So this is all like the OG ones, but they like did an anniversary edition, I feel like.
Oh, Onyx though.
Onyx.
Energy sticker.
Cardipi. Energy sticker.
A beat and a hollow bead drill. So I don't know what.
Oh, nice.
That one might not be anything. All right, dude. So we'll have to hold off for mom for the next one, and we can record a video, you and I. I'm gonna start him a YouTube channel. One more. Well, we're cutting into Simon's podcast time.
Zeke, I promise you, we could do it. But I want to make sure we give Simon some time. I'll give you some cards.
We'll do it at the end. All right. I mean, yeah.
I appreciate you, broski.
All right, here. Take that one though.
I love it. I love it, man. This is Simon's getting the full-throated like Marcos Zeke life right here. I'm put you.
Marcos was a dad, to be honest.
Well, now you know. There you go.
You know. That's his first kid. He's got Ari still.
I have 2. Yeah, my daughter's been acting a little reckless here these last few days. So it's been real.
Well, let's do that. We'll do a quick intro, and I'll get into it, and now the podcast starts. Well, Simon, thanks so much for being on the podcast. So the macro perspective, 2-year podcast, we talk all things health and wellness, and man, what an amazing time to get connected by one of my best friends, Ryan, who also was on the podcast talking financial health, which is super important, which, by the way, for me and Marcos was an amazing podcast. I still like reference a lot of what he talks about, and I do refer to Ryan for a lot of help. And he's actually going to be one of my groomsmen because he's that great of a friend for my wedding. But Simon, he connected us, and I know you're coming into this, social media world, and primarily in the form of longer form content. But yeah, man, tell us a little bit about you. I know your whole offer, your coaching is around health and wellness, but in the spiritual realm.
Yes.
Tell us about that. How did you fall into that? Just give us that lowdown, man.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to both of you for having me. It's a really big honor. Thank you for taking the time. And yeah, I really appreciate what you guys do. The way I got into the realm of health and wellness, which more focus on the spiritual side. So what I do is I actually help people remove what's blocking them energetically so they can step into their divinity. And what is their divinity? Their divinity means the most powerful connection with themselves that is connected to their spirit. And what happens is when you are connected to your spirit, when you are changing the relationship with yourself and getting out of that victim mentality of why are things happening to me and go more into why are things happening for me, that's when all the manifestations start to align with you, because that is when the God consciousness within you gets activated. And when the God consciousness within you gets activated through healing, through awareness, through empowerment, through changing the relationship with yourself, through reframing and changing psychological aspects of yourself, that is when you start to step into what I like to call your divinity. How I got into this was basically 6-7 years ago. I had just dropped out of USC. I was figuring out what to do with my life. I never really liked school. And that was kind of like a beginning of a spiritual awakening to me, because I didn't have any guidance, what to do, where to go. So I was taking on these random jobs, just going, but there was something eating me alive every day. And I was trying to escape what I've been avoiding for so long. During that time, I had been put on a medication. I decided to go on the medication that I didn't even need to, called finasteride, which is a anti-balding drug. And what it does is that it blocks testosterone, DHT, from actually coming into your head and performing its functions, which blocks a lot of other neurosteroids and everything like that, which ultimately gave me massive brain fog, anxiety, very bad, really damaged my nervous system at the time. And during that time, I had also messed around with a lot of drugs for a couple of days in Vegas because I went to EDC. And, I just avoided the fact that, oh my God, I have this brain fog and anxiety that's been creeping up for 6 months, because I didn't associate it with the finasteride. I just thought, oh, maybe I wasn't using my brain. I wasn't in school. I wasn't, So then come to think of it, whenever I got to EDC, I had this whole crash and this whole nervous system crash, which was topped off by a 50-gram edible. And I was panicking and tripping so hard, I actually look inside my brain through my third eye. I go inside while I'm tripping out, and I actually see the electrical stimulation between my brain and the hippocampal part of my brain actually shut down and shrink. And I didn't know what the hell that was, but I checked into the hospital. I was tripping out, came back. Through there, my brain was never the same. Severe anxiety, depression, couldn't move, nervous system, brain fog, like I had been trapped in a cave. And that is the beginning of how I had to kind of go within myself and say, I'm going to figure out if God is real or I'm going to die trying. And that was the beginning of it. That was the
Dude,
beginning.
Simon, that's a story, bro. That's a story. To be in such a state where you can see your brain synapses just like disconnect in the hippo. That's crazy. But that also showcases like your intelligence within yourself to see that happen. Showcases like, okay, like there's something going on here. And obviously more of a spiritual realm, but like then to see that. It's funny because so Marcos and I, we cover a lot of longevity and stuff like that. We do look at cognition through multiple tests. We were like there's helmets and like things we look at, and it's crazy where folks, we talk about this brain, but the brain is like, it's a knuckles worth of something in a skull. It doesn't see daylight. It doesn't see anything. It's just how we perceive it. And the brain is one of the most powerful things, but you've got to give it, you've got to give it the environment for it to flourish. So it sounds like it's been a 6-year journey of trying to get your brain back to optimization through some spirituality, through health and wellness and things like this.
It's been hell. It's been hell, to be honest, because this whole time it is about health, but I thought this all spirituality because I was putting all my faith in spirituality. And there was times I would even try to eat healthy, drink celery juice all the time and eat healthy. But what happens is I stop myself so much because eating healthy and doing all these things are a change, they're a whole lifestyle change. And when I didn't see results automatically, my anxiety went back to, oh shit, my brain is messed up, because you have a lot of testimonials of guys who have actually took their lives, sadly, and had irreversible effects from these medications, no matter what they did. So from there, I realized that, oh my God, I'm being consistent with the food, I'm being consistent, but I wasn't consistent long enough. And when you say, oh, it's about taking care of the brain, consistency is the key, right? You can't just, drink celery juice, eat, and then go do whatever you want. You have to literally make this a whole lifestyle change with your spirit, because the mind, body, and spirit work together. If you don't have one, you don't have any.
I'm just gonna clip that right there. The change you're looking for is in the consistent work you're not doing. It's so funny you say that, because that's what we call an immunity to change, or even adaptation. It happens a lot with our clients, right, Marcos, where maybe they lost a little bit, but maybe they stall. We call it like a plateau. And they're like, Seamus, the plan's not working. And they're probably doing everything right, but they're just not seeing a result. But there are wins. There are right, Marcos? Like, there are wins in the behavior, right?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it takes a coach digging it out, because you're going to immediately kind of impose this negative self-talk, with anything, and it doesn't feel like it's led to some sort of change. And again, like, I feel like a lot of plateaus generally happen around event-laden seasons for people more than anything, right? So you're ultimately going to have seasons of life where, and seasons of the year where you're a little bit less on your game, even though you think that you are, because you are working with somebody. And Seamus, I don't know if they've had like perfect consistency and compliance. I don't understand why this week literally is not going as perfectly as previous ones, right? And it takes you digging through that, and maybe the average looked good, but then, they had, yes, just because their weekly average looked okay, their daily, variance was a little bit more, so the weight was up on a couple days, so then they didn't see as much on the scale move, right? Like, there's so many pieces to the puzzle.
And that's where the anxiety actually comes in, because when most people will just want to feel better and they don't see immediate results, that's when the devil actually comes in and says, you're not going to heal. You're not going enough. You're not going hard enough. And that's where the distraction comes in to go backwards. So it's an extremist thing. So I understand.
Yeah. And again, for people, ultimately, we're always going to be more, what's the word? We're just going to be more, stringent on ourselves, right? We're just going to really feel as though we're not living up to our own expectations. And a lot of it then is where you have to understand that the ability to do things as an expert is to do it consistently well, but not perfect, just consistently well. And I think when it comes to seasons of change where you need to see an improvement, right? A lot of things that you're improving in, sometimes it doesn't have an objective measure, but there is subjective improvement. And I think part of like what you're coaching specifically is it is a subjective quantifier, and it could be a lot harder to talk about these things and feel as though there has been growth because you haven't seen, quote, the scale move, or you haven't been able to actually see a body composition change or something that's a little more tangible. But there is obviously, like, again, brain fog, right? One of the chief things that you were complaining about as a result of finasteride, right? That is a subjective feeling. There's no number that you can actually point to, but we all like, I never really understood brain fog in a sense until I've had moments where my anxiety is actually really bad. And the last time I had like a brain fog feeling was when I had a little bit of an upper respiratory infection kind of at the beginning of December. And it was like a Friday night, took my son to soccer practice. I had to call my parents. I was like, hey, I know you guys are coming here to like my mom was going to pick me up and my dad was going to stay and like watch my son at practice. And I was going to go help my wife with this bachelorette. That was the bachelorette. It was a baby shower that she was hosting at our house. And I'm like looking at her, I called my mom. I was like, I just don't feel right. I feel like lost in my mind, like clouded. It felt like the only other experience I had was when I smoked weed as a kid. And I'm like, it just felt like I was lagging through life. And I was like, I'm not on anything that would be causing that. I don't like how that anxiety feels. And then here I was, I'm like, I need help in this moment. And I was like, dude, if people live like this, if this is brain fog, fuck that. I do not want that whatsoever.
And that's their normal.
Exactly. And that's the part about the finasteride, how it gave brain fog, is that it actually had damage. It does damage to the neuronal connection and the synapses between the brain, because the brain a lot of the times is trying to protect itself. Right. Yeah. So what it does is that, the body thinks it's protecting itself, but it's actually hurting itself. So it goes into a constant fight or flight mode, especially when one part is damaged. And I completely, resonate with, what you're saying too, and the pain behind it, because being in that constant state is not for the weak. It's really not.
Oh, no. Yeah. And so, I mean, that was just like and it lingered for a few days because it was like that was like the onset of like me not feeling all that well. And I didn't like test for COVID or anything, but it may have been something like that. Like I didn't have anything except for kind of this like kind of lingering cough. And so whatever it was, I was just like, man, this does not feel good. And again, like, I'm relating to this to like, again, with us in our 9 to 5s, right, Seamus, where we're ultimately feeling some type of way because people are coming to us and they're voicing these chief complaints. And here we are as I started the job and Seamus started the job, we're in our early 20s. So a lot of these like symptoms are not things that we've experienced like hands-on in a sense. So we have to like kind of put ourselves in their shoes. And then when it starts happening as we're starting to age a little bit, I was like, dude, like, hell no. Like again, do not sign me up for this. I'm gonna live.
No, I think that's like a one thing, right? Like I love that you brought that up, Marcos, because it's like it is hard to. I can only tell people, like, I can only imagine, because first off, I don't have kids yet. Marcos, you have that against me. But when I've coached a ton of women, right, Simon, and a ton of women, perimenopause, postmenopause, during menopause, having kids, and it's like being an expert does not mean you can actually connect, communicate, or actually help a person out, because you've actually never gone through what they've gone through, but you can do your best. So you have to bring in energy because you don't have the wisdom yet. So when I've coached these women, it's like, I don't know what it means to have brain fog that's induced by menopause, right? But I can do my best, to just, hey, I can only imagine. So it's a difficult thing, because, as a young 20-year-old, right, Marcos, all I'm thinking about is like, how can I crack heads and, lift more weight and run faster, just because that's like the mindset I'm in. But, now I'm working with someone that's like, Seamus, I don't even know what to eat for breakfast or what waters. And that's been a decade-long coaching thing. Well, Simon, for you, let me ask you this, just kind of moving into that coaching aspect. When you talk about this divinity, I know you've had this journey about yourself. I know we've kind of sprung through that, but like in this journey, when did you decide like, okay, I've worked on my spirituality. I've worked on healing myself. Let me see how I can help some folks. Where did that come from? Where did this idea come from?
That is a very great idea. I'm getting chills just as you're asking that question. That's such a good question. 2018, it was 6 months after I was getting off the medication, I was healing. I took my first intense yoga class. It was 6 months after I just stopped the medication. My brain was all over, just foggy. It was terrible. And 6 months, I took this intense yoga class. My channels were open. And I had the first experience of this energy. I call it God, but this energy piercing through my body, channeling through my body, speaking out of me. That wasn't even me. And it was speaking to my voice. It was like, and I was like goosebumps. My mind was like not there. And it said, Simon, you are going to lead this world with love, but you have to experience this pain to understand what it's like. And it's going to go over, it's a channel. And it's like, you have to go through it, but it's going to be over soon. Now, keep in mind, soon in the quantum realm or the spiritual realm is like probably like 20 years. I was thinking it's going to be like 2 months. So after a year, I went back to school and I graduated school. I was like, I just want to get my degree while I'm feeling like this. This was 2018. I went back to school. I graduated 2020 and I was applying to these jobs. And I was like, Simon, you went through this healing journey and made this an introspective journey, not to just do these regular jobs. You went through this to help other people look at their pain as as inner work. So it was about 2021, 2022, where I actually started posting content about spirituality, started posting content about the divine, and started posting content about, you know, just the different wisdom that I know. And that is when I started to help people, but not just help people in a sense of, oh, I'm just going to talk to you. I'm just going to talk, you know, give you advice and be there for you. Because I've always done that. And it's now, how am I going to use this for my living? How am I going to help people and make this my business, but also my mission? So it was about 2022 when I realized, like, I can't do this. I can't do any regular job. I was meant to do this.
You know what you were blessed and cursed with?
Tell me.
The curse and the bless of knowledge. It's this concept where you're deprogrammed is what we call it. You're out of the matrix, and it's you know, you have this knowledge, you've gone through pain, through trauma, and usually people that experience a deep pain like this become experts in it to help others. And that's what Marcos and I are here, you know. This is the stuff we love. But you know, the thing that you felt, you're like, man, I just can't. You saw the future. You're like, I just can't be fucking doing a 9 to 5. That's not the thing that's going to help people the way I want to help people.
Never. The universe is never, if you're not meant to do it, the universe will put everything in your way to not let you do something if it knows if it's not meant for you. No matter how hard you try, it will block your path. It will do anything to be like, yo, mofo, listen to me. I'm giving you the signs right here through the numbers, through the people, through the synchronicities. Follow me. You just have to listen. And with you guys, I'm sure you've dealt with clients too, that it's not just the physical aspect of helping them. I'm sure this is an actual life journey for them, right? It's not just, oh, healing this or fixing this. It goes deeper than just the physical, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's been the conversation of my 2 restarts today. The journey is never over. And if you're doing your job exceptionally well, you want to provide all the tools, but sometimes you just have to be the person that gives them that energy again. Like, you put in this good energy. Not to not to quote what was it, Cali Means or Casey Means, right?
Cali Means, Casey Means, yeah.
But you got to put in this good energy to the people. And in the beginning of my career, I did realize that ultimately, like, it again, it felt like it was like a monetary exchange in a sense. Like, I'm learning to become a coach. I'm getting paid for it. Cool. It's a job. Whereas now it's like, okay, cool. This person, it is my tenure done with them, you know, and there's ultimately not a direct answer with that right away. And again, I just like to keep in contact with people and know how they're going. And so, like, this journey, like you mentioned, right, is just, you know, sending a random message when I'm thinking about those people. Like, it's been a while. Like, how you doing? You know, and my hopes is that they're great, right? That they're crushing it, and the tools that, you know, Seamus and I look to provide them have stuck, right? Because ultimately, like, the simplest thing to do is ultimately the best way to go to, like, keep things going, right? But, you know, life gets in the way, and so the conversations of the day was there's different things that have gone on in their journey, and when I helped them before, the challenge is now different, right?
Yeah.
Both of them know what to do, and they can obviously confide in me, like, to get to where they need to be. But now we got a whole new journey that's like we're embarking on, right? How do we make this thing stick? Was the amount of time that we worked together last time, was it long enough, right? Did we actually instill it and ingrain it, really create mastery? And again, like, I really hope to, you know, be able to, like, translate that over. I wish I could just give it to people through osmosis, but ultimately, like, it's through these hardships and struggles that help you then kind of re-identify what it is that you need to be doing regularly.
It's a good point, Marcos. Simon, I have a question for you, because like Marcos and I are working with people I feel like in what we were saying, like tangibles, like, hey, fat mass,
Yeah.
muscle, your
Yeah.
VO2 max, your running pace, like how much weight did you lift this week, your biofeedback. Now that's easy for me to check that data and just check in with the client week to week and go. My question is, and please, like, any restraint, no restraint, just go off. You can. What does it look like to coach someone through a spirituality practice? Like, what are like the benchmarks? Like, oh, you're healed at this point, or like, or this is this that's such a foreign language for me, man.
That's such a, again, like, you're coming in with the really deep and really, really good questions, because, and I'm not just saying that. The reason why I say that is because, you know, as a person who looks at everything from a quote unquote spiritual and conscious aspect, right? What I look at is, when a person's healed, is how are they changing the relationship with themselves? Are they holding themselves accountable? Right. And it's not just about the work of their progress within, you know, their body, or like what they're manifesting, what they want, how their environment is. It's not just about what the outside looks for them and how they are acting. It's the way they carry themselves. And the way how I see that they've changed and they've grown and evolved is, how are they looking at their pain, and how are they reframing it? Have they reframed it? Because something that I love helping people understand is that everything that is happening for you is for you to look at this as a blessing. Have you looked at this as a blessing? So while you're focusing on I need to see results, I need to see this person, have they made the accountable results that I can analyze, and have they lost the weight, have they done this? I'm looking at, how is their point of view in life? How have they used this as an empowerment tool? How are they going to use this to be a voice for other people? So that way, that is what truly stepping into your divine feminine or divine masculine is. How are you stepping into the most powerful version of yourself, where you are going to use this to help others at the end of the day?
Yeah.
It's the self-love.
That's a good point.
It's the self-love. Even if you're not exactly where you want to be, how much love do you have for yourself in the process? That's what I like to measure.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, I've been doing a lot of deeper work for myself. So that makes sense. And you know, it's funny, I turned 30 last year. I'm turning 31. And it makes so much sense where you say, you know, the universe, God, I mean, I'm a man of faith, so I say God, but like the universe, how the world works. And when you decide to make a goal, or you decide to create lifestyle changes, like I'm getting married this year, every single thing that can come up for me to challenge, for the world to challenge this wedding commitment is coming up. Because I'm a big proponent of like Jordan Peterson, and I kind of stole his quote, something along the lines of like, you've decided to make a goal and you're going through it. Now the universe and God are going, but are you actually following through though? And so like the biggest things right now for me, and Marcos knows this because he and I talk like every day, are like financial challenges. I've got to create this wedding. I had to buy a new car. I just got this other thing. And it's like, oh, everyone's Christmas gifts is of that season. And it just kind of goes like, so you said you're committed, but you're not having these financial challenges, Seamus. Are you still committed? And I'm like, all right, yeah, you're right. And I mean, bringing it back to the self-love component, because the older version of me would have just been like, yo, this is too fucking stressful. I need to quit. Like it's just too much unknown variables. I don't know how to do the math on these finances. I can't live in that and operate in that space. And I'll tell you this, when I've worked on my spirituality, I do talk to a therapist like every week and all these things. And I've literally worked on this one concept, and I'm still working on it very much. And I'm like getting chills talking about it. Marcos knows this about me, but like I'm letting go. I'm letting go, dude. Like I'm letting go of the concept of control, just because like it's just an illusion that I've chased for such a long time, and everything is okay. Yes, I might be in a bit of debt, or I might have a financial issue, but am I dead though? No, I'm good. And I don't need to lose my self-love, self-respect like you're talking about in that process, you know?
Exactly. And we're human at the end of the day. Like, we're not perfect. We're not these freaking like, you know, perfect beings all the time that are going to be so like a saint all the time. We're human. We're going to get mad. We're going to be upset with God. We're going to be upset with ourselves. We're going to cuss ourselves out. We're going to cuss out the whole process. But the awareness is the number one thing. When you have awareness, this is my favorite thing to say. When you have awareness, you're already 50% of the battle ahead. And when you ask for something, be prepared, because when you ask for something from God, when you ask for a better life, when you ask for it to be more powerful, when you ask to be successful, be prepared for other things to fall down right before, like you said, so God can test your faith. That's how he builds the warriors.
That's right.
So I'm going to play the devil's advocate in this scenario.
Go ahead.
How do we, how do we come to terms with something that we can't see? How do you help people deal with that spiritually, their inflection point, their view of the universe?
Well, then there comes faith, and that's where I like to give my story, because very grateful. A lot of the things that they can't see, you can't see love, but you feel it. You can't always see God, but you see it. But you see it through people, through different situations. You just have to have faith. And when you have this strong faith, I mean, look, I'll say me for an example. I had faith that when I got really badly affected by those drugs, that this was for a bigger reason, because it said that my spirit told me that. And if I hadn't had that faith, I probably would have taken my life a long time ago. And now I'm here helping so many other people and having this consciousness that I do. And that comes within them. That faith is not something that you can force on them. They have to want it. And they have to be proven it, but they have to just see. That's the game. That's the game, and that's what's really hard.
Yeah, because I wouldn't say I'm a man of faith or a man of religious principles in a sense. I have guiding principles that my family's instilled upon me. And I feel as though that those are obviously like words that I live by, like, trying to do right on others and, be a role model to my kids and, trying to, show them like through hard work that I have faith that if I show them these things that they'll hopefully follow in the footsteps, right? Like I guess that's my faith. But to believe blindly into something that, again, like you usually get a great analogy there with you don't see love, but you feel it.
Yeah.
So is faith in something that's like a higher power, something that is a feeling that's like that? Because, obviously too, like love has a bunch of other kind of neurochemicals that kind of go haywire and bonkers when you first feel it. I think everybody here on listening to this and us three can all agree that we had moments or a moment of like, what is this feeling like that is like in my heart and soul with the first love? And I mean, maybe you're lucky enough to still be with that person, but I know that the first person that I had those feelings for, they're not part of my life anymore, obviously. But it is a feeling. Can you look back and think about those feelings, right? And then, I mean, how do you translate that to something for someone that is maybe a non-believer? What is it you do to help them get to that?
Are you asking me or Seamus? Seamus, would you like to answer that first?
You know what? I'm gonna give it to you, Simon. This is your pod for today. I'll let you take the wheel on this one.
Marcos. There's a lot of non-believers who, want to find this. They want to have the faith, that they want to see things. They need to be proven X, Y, Z. They need to have this scientific method, which is fine, but look at your whole life as a whole and think about the blessings that have come to you, right? A beautiful family, beautiful children, speaking to many people, great health, right? How I look at things is you don't have control over most things that happen. You probably have like 5 to 10%. So then we get into the conversation of, do we really have free will or not? And that is a deciding factor that I'm still thinking about. But how to believe in faith and have faith for someone who's more of a non-believer, I would say, is look at your life as a whole and ask yourself, did the things that happen to you, have they been beneficial for you, everything in your life, or has your life just been a constant struggle every single day? You know, you can get mad that you didn't pass a test. You can get mad that you were late to a meeting. You can get mad that things didn't work out, but you can get mad and focus on the negative, or you can be positive and focus on maybe I was being protected. Maybe I was late to that meeting, or maybe things didn't work out for me because it was leading me to something greater. This all comes to the aspect of what route do you want to look at? Do you want to look at the positive route, optimism, or do you want to look at pessimism?
Yeah. Cognitive reframing. I love that, man. I'll be honest with you, Marcos, I'll continue this conversation. So I'm a man of faith, but I'm also a man of science. And the best thing I'll say about science and logic is, Marcos, like, you love logic. Come on, man. Math on math. But logic and faith, they're on the same spectrum.
Yeah.
It's just that logic is here. It's just faith is on this other side that we don't understand everything in between, but it's on that same spectrum.
100%.
It's just a different way. It's just a different way of saying it. Now,
wait, real quick though. Like, the thing about logic though is that it's axiomatic based off of supposed truths, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a hard time breaking those supposed truths. So what is the supposed truth behind faith?
It's that internal knowing. Like, you think you think your mind is just your mind, but if you can agree that your mind is so powerful, whether you want to call it placebo, whether you want to call it God, whether you want to call it manifestation, we can all agree that it's still there, right? So you want the supposed truth, and you're saying, what is the supposed truth coming out of this? That's faith. Well, whatever you want to call it, it's within you. Can we agree to that? That you are the creator of whatever happens?
You're definitely the meaning-making machine of what happens to you, and how you perceive it to be.
Yes.
Two different people could be in the same person. There's that movie called 8 Perspectives. They watch 8 things, all from different angles, but they all have different meanings to it. It's all their different life experiences, their wisdom, their age, their, I don't know, whatever there is, their racial.
The one that was centered around a car crash.
Exactly, but it's 8 perspectives, but it's the, they all took a different meaning from it, right? And I don't even know what point I was trying to get to, but what I'm saying is the brain is powerful. The brain is powerful in the sense that it will create a perspective out of it with the knowledge that it can, because the brain will fill the gaps where it doesn't. And it's interesting. I think the gap is kind of like the faith, where it's just like, you don't have everything, so you have to take a leap of like, that's all I have, so I'm going to make a decision off that.
Exactly. Yes.
So by that logic, though, like, you're, again, X goes to Y, Y goes to Z, so therefore X would lead you to Z, but obviously you're skipping Y here. It's like a transitive property.
So there's a book about this. Have you read Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow, Marcos?
I think it's in my Audible somewhere, but I have not read it.
I'm thinking this is the book, but so there's the first chapter in the book talks about gamblers, horse gamblers, like horse racing gamblers, where they needed 5 inputs. Like, they needed to know, like, who the racer was, who the horse was, how many races the horse had, and what the race is. And most of the time, most gamblers can bet. And they're like, if they just have a few inputs, they can take a bet. And with that being said, they had good betting chances. The other perspective was they can get all the information. So they did another study, same thing. People that bet only on knowledge of 5 facts on the horses, then they gave them more facts. They gave them more statistics, all these things, way more inputs. The funny thing was, in this study, don't quote me, but apparently their betting rates went down, because even though they knew more things, it was so many factoids in there that it actually stopped their ability to bet better. I think sometimes that concept of thinking fast and thinking slow, like Daniel Kahneman, and he talks about just being able to, it's almost like a hunch. Like you just have a few variables you need to have, and then you're like able to make a decision kind of thing. I don't know if that makes any sense in this conversation for that.
Seamus, that's good. And I have to say something. How many times have you, Marcos, have you thought of something and then it actually happens? Like a person, you've thought of a person and then they called you the next second. Or you had an intuitive hit about something or someone and then it just manifested.
I mean, okay, that is like the deja vu principle in a sense, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, I was just thinking about you. Or that literally just happened like a week and a half ago. My mom was like, what is that? Whatever happened to, his name is Gio, whatever happened to Gio's dad? And then by some happen chance stance, like I'm literally at the Vegas Golden Knights game and I run into him and two other guys I played baseball with. And I was like, Mom, didn't you like say something about this? Or was I imagining that? And she's like, I don't think I did. But I was like, okay, but like it felt like that moment, right? Where you run into that. It's just also like when you have that instance of there's always a theme, right? These people are literally in two different parts of the world, right? Or different parts of the country. Mm-hmm. And the phone calls that I have, I didn't say anything. Maybe I'm like, again, maybe I'm the Y and they're the X and, another input, right? But they're talking about the exact same topic on that today, on that day.
They talk about that in quantum mechanics a lot, like one proton on one side of the universe. And then, particle? Yeah, it's entangled particles. Even though they're not in the same geological places, they're acting in accordance with each other. Yeah. So it's crazy.
So do you believe in that word? Like when that happened, Marcos, do you believe in that as quote unquote? I'm not going to use scientific terms right now, but I'm going to ask you: do you believe in that as coincidence, or do you believe in that as something more supernatural? Like, what is?
It's funny you bring that up because there is somebody that says like, "Wow, what a small world." Because you ran into somebody you know, but how many instances did you walk past somebody that you didn't know in that course of the day, right? Our minds love this idea and glamorize this thing of like the highly improbable thing coming to fruition, right? And that's probably why so many people can latch on to faith, because it's probably highly improbable that you don't actually get to that outcome. But you're like, F it. If there is a likelihood that can happen, it can make me feel like a much better person, right? And again, like I took the stance of devil's advocate, because I'm not saying it. I'm not gonna let people know what stance I actually do take, because it's none of your fucking business.
This is my podcast. I do what I want.
That's true.
But I like where this conversation's headed, because again, like there's so many instances. It's like small world, right? Okay, here's another one. Person at the gym, right? Gave her information because for a DEXA scan, right? Been friendly with them. They've obviously been working out around the same time for the last year and a half, right? Friendly, and so we, sparked up conversation, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, it's like, oh yeah, like you have to actually send me the information, Marcos, because her husband was there too. It was like, you were talking to some guy that's obviously younger than you. And like, she didn't want to make it awkward. I was like, her husband was giving her shit, and I was laughing. I was like, oh, you made me blush, right? So I've sent her the information, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, what does your husband do? He's like, he's a cop. And I was like, oh, we have a lot of friends that are cops. Like, one of them actually just moved to K9. He's like, his name wouldn't be, happen to be Freddie, would it? And I was like, yeah. I was like, oh yeah, actually my husband and him went into the academy together, right? Small world. Or, right, is it just like, again, you're in part of only 1 million people. And, if someone ends up being a cop, the likelihood of them like getting to, be somebody is probably like statistically more likely.
Now we're talking about chance. Now we're just talking about probability and chance.
Yeah.
And, I could say this, and I could definitely say this. Science and spirituality, they come together. They're not separate. They come together. Just like what you said, Seamus. And it's just the way we look at it is probably similar. It's just the different approaches. And I wanted to give you a quick story for like 1 minute. Okay. That, I just wanted to say, first of all, that when you have the faith, only I had the faith because I had no other choice. You understand? Like I had no other choice. If I didn't have faith, my life was many times I was about to take my life because the pain was so hard. And now I'm here and I have, these visions and I see it. And that is why my faith saved me. Think about it. My faith, if it wasn't for my faith, I wouldn't simply be alive right now. And I'll give you another story, a really cool story. one time I was boiling eggs in my house for 12 minutes, and my mom and her boyfriend were out of town. And I put the egg timer on for 12 minutes, and my mind's always like airy, always going everywhere it needs to move. And I forget that I leave the stove on. I drive to my ex's house, and I'm there, and I'm just chilling with her, and I want to sleep over. And my ex is like, babe, like, I don't really feel well today. Can we just like sleep like separately? Can you just go home? She never said that. She never said that when I would sleep over. She'd always just be like, oh, just sleep over, just, like whatever. Never. I'm like, okay, knowing me, I would usually like be like, no, let me stay over. Come on, like I want to spend time with you. I didn't even argue with her. I just like, okay, no worries, I respect your space. I go home, my kitchen was almost starting to burn down.
Mm-hmm.
If I hadn't been there and I'd slept over, my dog would have fucking got caught in the fire. My whole house would have burned down. So you can look at that as, is that a coincidence, right? Or is that a higher power, the guides, whatever you want to call it?
I will say this, dude. I think it goes back to that message that you said at the beginning of the call, is the universe will place certain things, but you have to have the wherewithal enough to be present to do something about it. Like, I'll tell you an example of this. 12 years ago, I was driving my car, was going home. I lived up this hill in West Hills in LA, and it was raining, but this is like a Saturday afternoon, like 2 p.m., and it's raining. It's like the first rain of the year in like, I think January, February. And on Wednesday, I was supposed to have a meeting for my tires. I was supposed to do like a meeting for the tires to like get it because they were like, the tires needed rotating or something. But I skipped the meeting because I was like, I'm just gonna be lazy. And it's raining now, and it's Saturday. I'm gonna go do the meeting on Sunday instead because that's when I got time. But I feel like I should have done that meeting, because guess what happens? I flipped my car. I flipped my car in the rain. Like, it was like the last mile. But it was funny because that meeting was on Wednesday and this was Saturday. But in between that meeting, Thursday, Friday, my mom texted me multiple times, like, why didn't you do that? Like, you're supposed to go do that. Like, the car needs its update. Like, she reminded me multiple times. And she's like, she even said, like, make sure you drive safe and all this. And here I am, young cocky dude, like, I'm just gonna drive home. And apparently most car accidents happen within a mile of your home. And I was like driving up the hill, and I'm like, and that's when it fell. And I think it just comes back to what you were saying, Simon. You have to like be present to these messages that are happening.
And it only takes, and to be honest, a lot of the times, or most of the time, it takes suffering to know that. And not suffering, I'm not saying like you have to go through immense suffering, but suffering of, why is this happening to me? Questioning, why is this happening to me? And things in your life that you're like, I want to go have a seeking spirit. Because if everything is just so dandy all the time, and you're just chilling, and you're not going to have always a seeking spirit. It takes real events happening in your life, struggles of some sense. It doesn't have to be like mine, like struggles of any struggle, to want to actually go within and be disciplined. That's what drives the human body. Because they say God became man so that man can become God again.
Yeah. Suffering.
Marcos, how are you doing with this information?
It's why so many people, when you get into a space where there's shared suffering, a shared feeling of that, quote, suffering, that's where I think ultimately, come as you are, right? God accepts all, right? It's why AA can be super effective for people that actually follow through all the steps, right? Suffering is necessary for human experience. Yes, unfortunately, a lot of us can misconstrue what suffering could actually look like, I feel like. Ultimately, that's kind of 2024 in a nutshell. There was some suffering there. And again, is this God's way of saying it wasn't the right time to be going after my goals or our goals for Seamus and myself? Did we have to kind of again, take a step back from everything we thought that we wanted and have this thing occur, because we could do it the right way, but we just have to make it authentically what we need it to be, and less about this drive to actually like kind of monetize or whatever that might be.
Mhm.
Right. And maybe you're right. Maybe that is God's way of saying, hey,
Maybe.
like, hey, you guys were on the right path before you thought about that you needed it to be you guys doing it together for business right now.
Mhm.
What you got to focus on is just authentically connecting with people.
Yeah, authentically connect. Yeah. I think, you know what, Marcos, we were trying to do? We were trying to put the cart before the horse, bro. Like, we really needed, what we were doing was, we were putting on the big boy pants when we haven't even walked yet, you know?
Well, that's the human experience, though. That's the learning. Like, what if you needed to go through that, right? What if, I'm not saying 100%, but like, what if you needed to go through that to be able to be on the timeline to where you guys are going to go?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm trying to look at it that way. Is that like Simon, like transparency, like the first amount of like a micro amount of debt outside of a car payment in my house was taking ventures into this project, right? Which makes us no money, mind you, right? But it is led to basically master's plus degree in communicating and conversating with people, right? Like things that you probably would not get in a communications class unless you're in for the experience, right? You know, as we stand before you, there's little things that we've polished up going into 2025 that were part of that. And I'm like, hey, we should have, like, I'm shooting myself in the foot. Like, I could have just bought the camera, but I bought the set of other stuff. Why the hell would I do that? I made a mistake. I probably got to save $200, right?
That's your.
Yeah, I'm overzealous, right? I was like, hey, but again, now I'm like, hey, logically, I'd like this thing. I'm gonna start with like the base level thing, and then I can add to it later. I'm gonna look at it like I'm gonna departmentalize everything so that it can make more sense for the future. And you know, you're right? Like, again, is that God's will? Potentially.
That's the faith, right?
Yeah.
And that's the faith is because, you know, and I just want to say genuinely, I completely thank you for sharing that story with me and being so vulnerable about that, because I resonate with that so hard, thinking my healings were going to come at a certain pace at a certain time, which I'm still healing from, or my business was going to be like this and I was going to be in this place in my life. And when I think about it, I get so mad at God, but the faith, you always have the idea that it's all happening for you and leading you, even though you cannot see it. You took the chance to skip the nitty gritty stuff. You didn't cut the cheap way. You didn't take the shortcut. You took out that money to do what you want to do. Now, let me ask you something. If you wouldn't have done that,
you wouldn't know how to. I wouldn't know how to not make that mistake again. I wouldn't reconsider or try to ask better questions about the next steps.
Exactly.
And so
I mean, Simon, between us three here and like the pod people, because we tell them there is so much documented things that we will never get to give to the world in our audience. Like there's courses, right, Marcos? There's like lost episodes. There's literally tons of conversations between Marcos and I that I was like, damn, that should be an episode, but we'll never get back to, because it's like it was just in that moment, all these things, because and that's just part of the learning curve of this content creation, education content, or podcasting. To this passion project is to help people with our knowledge base and serve, because I want to serve. Yes, at some point, do we want it to come back where maybe it gives us a few clients here and there, or hey, something does come to fruition.
I told you,
but it does,
right?
though.
It does though. It doesn't get us clients in the sense of like people are listening. We have so many people listening that they're like coming into us, but it keeps our heads on our social media game, which then allows for people to see that we're relevant. Because as soon as you go dormant, people are like, do you even coach still? I'm like, dude, I mean, like, yes.
You guys deserve, this is the thing, you guys deserve everything you guys are desire. If you hadn't thought about it, it is probably a lot of the times when you don't have that vision, it's probably something that wasn't even on the timeline to begin with, right? So you have that vision. Now there comes a choice of how are you looking at your situation right now? How are you are you detached from how it's going to happen? Because detachment is a big thing too. You can do the work, meet God 50%, but at the end of the day, when your higher self is putting in that work and your true self is moving and connecting, are you detached to the outcome, or are you expecting an outcome that your own mind made up?
Yeah, dude. It's just expectations, man. I feel like it's standards and expectations or visioning maybe unrealistic things. And I want to do this because I want to make sure we're good on time, Simon. Simon, you brought something up earlier in the call. Victim mindset, proactive mindset. When you're coaching people, you're bringing them this out of this victim mindset, right? What does that look like? I mean, give us some more tangibles so the audience kind of use. I mean, you've talked about a lot. There's a lot there. There's faith. There's asking the right questions, reframing. What else do you do to help people get out of that victim mindset into the mindset that they're coming back to more self-love?
Everybody wants a chance to have a legacy. Everybody wants to have a mission in this world that's greater. Everybody knows, most people that you talk to know deep down, they're in here for something that's greater than just them. When you talk to them and you tell them and you help them understand that we are all a collective, right? Not just one individually, but we are serving a collective. Not everybody. Some spirits or souls are here for different purposes, but a lot of people are here for the collective consciousness of awakening. What does that mean? That means that we can look at each other as all going to the same place, achieving the same mission, same dharma, but just different ways of going about it. When you bring up to somebody that what their mission is, what their struggle is part of, I like to say, soul contract, or part of their mission to be able to help other people, I use the subject of how is this going to help other people who need them?
I love that. Can I pause you there for a second? Marcos, I just got to say this right now. So I had a call with one of my clients and I coach a bunch of group of men, Simon. This is exactly on point. I literally just had this call like on Friday. And he made an email back and forth with one of the other coaches I work with. And he goes, yeah, I'm doing really good. I'm progressing. I'm creating a lot of progress in the programs because he's doing 2 different programs. And he's like, yeah, I just don't really see like what joining the community calls would be like. Like, is there anything for me? And the coach stopped him and he's like, yeah, that's your problem right there. You're thinking about what you're going to get out of it because
Exactly.
you've made so much progress. He's like, you've made so much progress. These things are not problems for you anymore. You're probably maybe like a neutral or like a positive now. You're not in pain anymore. But the problem is you just asked me, what can I get out of it? And he just called him out. He's like, well, you're out of pain. You're good. You're probably in a great place. Why don't you show up and become someone that can give back? How does that journey look? When's the first time you actually came into a call, a community call or a group thing, and was the person that was saying, hey, how can I give in this?
Exactly.
There's something, there's going to be something for you too. But if your first thought was like, how can I give into this? And he made that shift in one call with me. He's been showing up in the community. He's been commenting, and it's just been a game changer. And I've been asking that of the other people in that group, and it's just been a shift. It's been a shift.
And
I'll just say that.
And that's the thing. Not everybody for whatever work you do, and I'm hearing you, but not everybody for the work that you do is ready to make that change. Not everybody is ready to go through that struggle. Not everybody is ready to make that change, and it's not ready. Everybody's on a different evolutionary timeline, right?
Yeah.
So when Nichiren Buddhism, we call that turning karma into mission, which means whatever struggle you have, whatever your karma is, whether you want to talk about past life karma, we turn it into the struggle now and use that struggle as a mission. So I think that's pretty cool that you had all those people that just shifted and he saw that. Like, isn't it? It's just such a blessing to see that, isn't it? Because then it fills you up. It fills your heart up in a sense.
Makes my job easier.
It's a domino effect too, right? When you help somebody, they're able, even if it's one person, when you help one person, they're able to help God knows how many people.
Yeah. 100%, dude. 100%.
Thank you for sharing, guys. Thank you.
I think the act of giving has to also be a thing that you self-select in doing, because it's one of the number one reasons why people don't quote unquote tithe, right, is a result of the giving is disingenuous to what their giving spirit looks like. And they actually did a study on this, I believe, that spoke about when people were able to dictate where their money would go, they would gladly give up 10% of it, right? So when you feel like that's a part of the principle that you can guide by, again, if you're giving 10% of yourself, let's like just say it's not actual currency, but it's like 10% of what you have to give. Maybe when you call out that person and say, it's like, yeah, it's not what I can do for you, is what you can do for the community, right? Like, or it's not what the community can do for you, is what you can do for the community, right? That then gives that person a greater sense of purpose that they didn't once have before. And I think that story resonates because that person, he was like, oh shit, like I'm now I'm leveled up a little bit, right? I'm at a level above just starting out where, everybody that's brand new coming into the group, like I should be big brother, take them under my wing, like X person did with me. And I don't know, again, like that seems kind of maybe trivial to people that have played sports, or that maybe have had a mentor, but for a lot of people, they don't maybe have that relationship with someone else, that mentor. And it's again, like you said, Simon, you asked that question, and Seamus was just like being cognizant of time again. Yeah. You're right. Well, no, that's what he keeps us on a timeline. The thing is, though, to answer that question. No, I lost my train of thought.
It'll come back. It'll rotate.
No, it's not the brain fog. It's just I lost. Oh man, see, Seamus, you did that to me. I should have cut you off. Damn it.
You should.
No. I would not take back anything that I did previously, because working off this quote unquote mistake is a life lesson that allowed me to have a little bit of suffering in an area that I didn't know that I needed. Everything that I normally do is so calculated and I try to be so methodical, but the people around me are not at times, right? If I was left to my own devices, funny enough, we're watching this show right now called The Later Daters, right? Which is on Netflix. And I did it because people were talking about, like, it's more authentic of a dating reality show. It's older people, like, kind of looking for true love, right? They may have been divorced, or they're, they may be widowed, right? Whatever that is. And, this person, he's ex-military and has a relationship with like an ex that they have a baby with, but he's militant to a level that he's like, everything has this rightful place. He like was cleaning off his counters. Everything is like, it looks like a dude's bachelor plaid. You know what I mean? Like, no, there's no decorations. Everything is just organized and quote unquote tidy. And I was like, that would literally be me but like my wife doesn't be like, yeah, but your house wouldn't be clean. It's like, no, but it'd be organized. There's a difference, right? My wife is clean. I'm organized, or at least I like to be, right? And so again, having that debt in this case, right? I have to pay some interest on it, right? I made a mistake. And this is the first time in anything I've done in life had like a quote unquote a consequence to it, right? Something that I had to like kind of dig myself out of. It sucks. It sucks to have debt. It sucks to kind of like feel this type of way. And this might be how you feel about your diet. Oh, I cheated on this, right? Yeah, but you got to pay the piper. You got to kind of slowly chip away at it consistently for it to go away. Just like the weight you want to lose, right? Just like the financial hurdles you want to overcome, like Seamus talked about. Just like everything else that you want to do that actually matters to you. This thing mattered to us. Anything that people do, I don't want to half-ass it. You want to whole-ass it, right? So I felt like I was whole-assing it, Come to find out, again, it led to better questioning, right? I thought in my mind for this year that there might need to be a sales funnel, only to have a conversation with someone that literally talked me out of it. I found that super interesting. Yeah. He's like, you know what you need to do. If you're asking me these questions, you're not in the realm of even worrying about scalability. So just worry about going back to what you did before. I was like, well, thank you. I have one less thing on my plate I have to worry about, and no more like debts to be paid there, And it was actually very relieving. So maybe that was God looking out for me. Like you said, maybe I'm 50-50. No one knows,
I just want to say, no matter what happens in life, and I think people need to hear this, life is fucking hard. There's always going to be some shit, no matter how perfect you try to be. There's always going to be something that happens that's fucked up. That's messed up. Excuse my language. Whether it's a debt, whether it's something else, you can't stop it. the only thing that you have to understand is that how are you going to use this to, I mean, the situation sucks. Let's be honest. It's like nobody wants debt. Nobody wants suffering. Nobody wants that. I'm not disvalidating what you're going through, by the way. I'm just saying there's always something going to happen. So who knows? I mean, that's where it goes back to faith. Like if it wasn't this, how do you know that this wasn't on the timeline, this debt to put you on the timeline to lead you to some other story? Do you know what I'm saying? I like to look at interconnectedness in things and how everything is kind of interrelated.
Yeah, you're finding the beauty in the flaws.
Mm-hmm.
I had to. I mean, there was no choice, right?
Hey, let's just be real. Like, I feel like from this conversation, whether it's spirituality, health and wellness, like just some hard truths, no one's gonna come save you.
Yeah, nobody.
No one's gonna create that meaning for life for you, and you've got to do it yourself. And it sounds like to me, Simon, like truly, I think I was listening to, like, I do a catechism class like daily right now. I think one of the perspectives that really works well is I naturally gravitate to optimism. That's just who I am. But I think you're an optimist realist, if that makes sense. Like you gravitate to positivity, but you're also like not seeing not the bullshit. Like you see the shit, but you're just like, okay, what can we do about it? Where is the true meaning? Where is this beauty? I think that's the most important thing, is if you can find that beauty no matter what, right?
Yeah, and I'm also very pessimist, and I hate the world sometimes, and I hate shit, and I hate people. Sometimes I'm not perfect. I'm not this. People are like, oh, you're so spiritual. Like, why are you saying these words? Like, shut up. I'm still a human being. I still get upset at the universe. I'm still, I'm very negative. People are like, stop thinking negatively. Well, when you have been in so much shit for so long, the human ego is gonna obviously be negative. But yes, Thank you for the compliment. I think it's just, in this world is very hard, and you have to navigate the human experience as best as possible.
100%. Well said. Navigate the human experience as best as possible. Really is. Marcos, any last things? Maybe Simon, Marcos, any last thoughts or questions for Simon before maybe we sign off here, just because we're over an hour.
At the end of the day, I guess just own it. And I feel like I actually have something for you, Seamus. I've noticed this is like, I think it just kind of like dawned on me. Sometimes when we're talking about things faith related, like, again, I'm saying I'm 50-50. And I should just outright say, like, I don't think I'm a believer in anything of like bigger power, unfortunately.
Okay. That's
right.
fine.
And I'm going to own up to it. But then I think there's a little hint of that 50-50 kind of split in you, because you kind of go into this kind of hush tone when you're talking. You kind of like say it really fast.
I'll tell you why.
And it's like,
I'll tell you why.
Are you afraid of actually like owning up to that because you feel like people would?
Oh no,
like
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of it. It's more. I don't care what people think if I'm faith based or not. It's because of my logical inclinations. I like to lean.
Do you question it a bit? Is that what it is?
No, I don't question it a bit. My faith and my religion. Well, not even my religion in itself is different. It's my faith and my relationship with God.
Got it.
That's as strong as ever. But it has to do with, I don't like to use religion as the context of how I operate, because religion in itself is a.
You're saying like big business religion, like you.
Yeah, big like religion, like as it's gone through the world, the universe, like as it's gone through, it's like religion is it's for lack of a better term, it's very hypocritical. It's had a lot of ups and downs, and especially in my faith of like Christianity, Catholicism, all those things.
And I hate to say this, man, most people I know that are very Catholic and Christian based, they're full of fucking shit, dude. I don't know what it is, and I'll say it outright right here. It's part of like my perspective. And I'm like, men of God are very they're hypocrites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And again,
I mean, and also like
just like Simon saying, like we're not perfect, and I'm not expecting it to be perfect. But
there's only like, I think, I don't know the number of recorded saints out there, but all I can say is my relationship with God, I'm very proud of. I'm very happy about that, and I will talk about that. But I don't force that persona onto people, so that's why I'm very like, But I'm also at the same time, I like science, and I like a lot of science to explain a lot of things for just my own personal ego. So that's where it's at. So again, not any no shyness and stuff like that. But I would say the institution of religion in itself is like a sack of shit sometimes. And I'm like, you can look at all the history of Catholic Church and how that's a superpower in itself, and it's just like, geez.
And
but no,
essentially all the hidden secrets and jewels that they are.
Why do you think it's a city state, bro? Like, why do you think it's a state, bro?
It's like a big conspiracy. Now we're going to conspiracy theories.
Now we're going into Da Vinci Code, bro, and I don't got time for that. But no, super strong on my face, super strong on what I do. But sometimes I'm very how do I say this? I am very compartmentalized and show certain aspects of myself.
You're a little bit conflicted, and that's why I was wondering. I'm like, I feel like every time that kind of happens, you move into that kind of intonation, and then I mean, Simon like very much so is owning it, and he kind of had like that awakening moment. And I feel like everybody might get to that point at some point where they really have that kind of like as part of their spiritual journey, right?
How do I say this? If we had like a whole, how do I say this? We could have another podcast on this, but like,
we need to.
But the whole, I'll tell you this. Like, for example, in the Bible is a very debated conceptually because it's been translated through multiple translations. We don't really truly know the true translation. But most people don't understand. Like, we have the story of Adam and Eve, but people don't understand that's not the true story. Like, the true story is like Adam was with Lilith first, and people are like, "Who the fuck is Lilith?" And I'm like, Lilith becomes one of, like there's so many stories that are not in there because of the way knowledge has been given to us. We've been given knowledge that is knowledge has been given to us through time by the people in power, not through true knowledge. So that's why I have to have my faith in God the way I have to have it. And that's why with religion and the teachings of religion, I'm very skeptical. And that's why I don't talk about it that much in that sense, because people have different inclinations with religion, how they've dealt with it in their household or whatever.
And the people who are trying to be, it's translated it, the text of the Bible, it was different during that time. Like, it was probably translated over, like you said, many different long period of time. And during that period of time, what it says in the Bible could have been different than how we interpret it today. Right. Yeah. And who is translating it? The people, a lot of people who are in power for control. Right. So I think you touch on a very good base that the relationship, you have to have your own relationship with God. God is not, I'm not going to tell you what God is. I'm not going to tell you God is this, I'm not going to tell you God is Jesus, or I like to call him Yahusha. I'm not going to tell you he's that. I'm not going to tell you he's you. You have to have your own relationship with God, right?
Yeah.
That's where it comes, Marcos. Is like it's not saying God is this man above looking above. I'm not saying that you're saying that, but it's when I think of God, which we have to have this conversation later because it's going to go into just many different fields. It's we're all part of the same one creator, right? We're all part of that creator. And we're made from that creator, which is our highest self, our true self, which you can say that we have God within us. We are God, right? But we're not at the same time because we're still here as human form, but this goes into something else. So just
and we'll do this. Marcos, you opened up another
portal, man.
And now it's good. That means Simon's gonna have to do a part 2. Which, hey, this is great. We'll always do a part 2 now, Marcos.
Hey, actually, we could. I know you mentioned, Simon, that you're looking to get into doing this stuff yourself. So maybe we just do our first episode with you, cross do it in a sense where it just helps to get things going, and we can continue this conversation whenever you feel that's right amidst your journey with podcasting.
I want to love that, and I want to say something to you guys. I want to genuinely say I am very grateful to be here sharing this with you guys and speaking to you fine gentlemen. You guys are so well spoken. You guys are so genuine, and genuinely, I'm not just saying this. I see and feel nothing but success coming on your guys' end because of the generosity and the actual genuineness in your guys' heart to want to help people, not doing it for a self-serving purpose. So I want to thank you guys for doing the work. And thank you guys for being who you are. And I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of this.
Appreciate that, awesome. Man. Appreciate you. It means the world to us because this is, over 2 years of like our hard work at this and really trying to make that like part of our journey was to get better at, again, our rhetoric, our skill of artful speaking, and being able to hopefully have people listen. And when we get that kind of praise, again, especially from someone that we don't really know, we're gonna get to know you even better. It really like it fills our cup. And I take that, I take that compliment very highly. I really appreciate it. I know I'm speaking for Seamus, but I know we'll geek out about it together a little bit later. But and again, dude, thank you for letting us do something completely like off kilter to get things going with my son at the beginning, because I've been drawn to that lately. Maybe that's the act of God speaking to me, right? Like my relationship with God is like, if I do things that I think are fun because it's like drawing me for whatever reason, there's a reason, right?
Yeah.
And the joy, my son's literally like pacing. He wants to open these packs.
He wants to open another pack.
So, like it's just stuff like that. It's a cool moment and experience. And you're right. Like, I think how you close that out with, your relationship with God is going to be your relationship with it. And I hear a lot of people talking to me, and I think he's trying to, get his grips with me in a sense that is like gonna probably take years to actually mature. And I'm fine with that. My relationship growing up felt a particular way. It may be hardened in a sense. I'm not saying I'm not open to exploring this further. It's just that I'm going to come at it with a fine-tooth comb, because that's just my nature. I want to know how people can get to that place where they're believers. I'd love for that to be the case. It's like where people are like, I just didn't even know what weight was on the bar. I was like, must be nice. I can immediately add up all this plate math very quickly. It's just
the curse of knowledge, man.
Curse of knowledge, like Seamus said.
And you have to let go of the way that you think things are going to happen as well.
Yeah.
How your ego
I'll tell you this, Marcos. I would say, I've been a person of faith my whole life. And I've gone through multiple iterations of religion, because in the Philippines, when I grew up, it was Iglesia. It's a different type of thing. Then I grew up for a long time doing a lot of different things. And now I'm going to a different state because me and my fiance are getting married, and we want to have kids under a household with a faith that handles it. And I will tell you this, when I finally started looking at it the last year and actually made it as like a daily practice, what I will tell you, it is a practice, but it has given me a lot of peace. A lot of peace. And if I can just give you that piece of feeling, like that peace feeling, I'm not always perfect. I get angry, but I would say peace has been the mission and it's been great.
And then your mind might go to Marcos is that the peace that you're telling yourself that you feel like you tricked your mind into thinking to having, or is that a real peace? And that's where you got to just let go.
Yeah. Hey, and again, Simon, I wrestle with it because it was
wrestle with God, man.
It was a little bit. I mean, we could. Yeah,
this
is great. Again, this is such a taboo topic to like, because it's like you can't have faith in school. So I feel like I was like, why is this always suppressed, right? And I think that hardened my stance on it. And then my parents were very like Jack Catholics, right? And didn't necessarily. My mom was, she went to Catholic school. My dad, like, again, he was raised like a Catholic and went every Sunday, and went through the whole like Sunday best type of thing. It's just. The household that I got, again, it was just a whole different teaching. So for me, God and religion go hand in hand. Whereas like your guys' idea of God removes this idea of conventional things, which is like, again, okay, well now how do I usher that thing in?
It's the deprogramming.
It's the deprogramming of the institutional sense of it, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Deprogrammed institutional things for so long. And I was like, well, logically, everything we're doing at school is supposed to like help you with your upbringing. Granted, everything else that we learn in school doesn't fucking apply. We don't know.
I can't even do my taxes. I can't even do my taxes, bro.
And most old traditional religion, like how you grew up, is more like putting the God outside of yourself, right? And just accepting things and not questioning things, and leaves a lot of suppression within people, which manifests in other ways. And I've tend to see that people who actually go about it that route don't have don't usually have the best way of the way they communicate with people, aren't as empathetic towards people, and they have a lot of shame, which they project on other people.
Shame. Shame,
exactly. That's not, I don't,
it doesn't have to be rooted in fact, man. It's anecdote, right? Like, it's fine. Like, at the end of the day, a lot of things that we do and coach upon is based on anecdotal observation. There may not be an exact textbook that explains why that you've noticed that trend. You just know it. Again, you know it in your in your loins. You just know it. You just deep down inside of you.
Your relationship with your son, really quickly. Your relationship with your son who wanted to open that cards, and I saw how happy you were. For example,
oh yeah,
that was an example of one example of God coming through me. That was God right there.
Yeah,
that love that the father and the son share between bloodlines. That's God showing himself in that clear way. So
yeah, and
more moments like that, Marcos.
Hey, and again, I've made it a part of this year's. Well, I haven't actually made the list yet, but one of the things after doing this card show event with him this weekend was like, I gotta blend in and lean into the fatherhood angle, because there's so many people that are fathers for different reasons. Sometimes it was thrust upon them at the wrong time, or quote unquote what they may have deemed as the wrong time based on where they're at. But at the same time too, like, we talk about it, but then bring him in and like maybe he develops a knack for editing or something else. Like, I'm open to like trying to learn these things with him. Again, I had no idea the value of my fucking Pokemon cards. I knew that there was like a good amount of value, not how much, right? But then to see like his face light up and like, again, just have that moment of like, man, like there's things that I could do that I wish my dad had more time for. My dad and me and my son, we all have this time now. That's the one thing I feel like 2020 has provided for us, is the ability to actually understand you have a lot more time that you can utilize. You just have to like actually go do it. So,
well, let's end it there. I want to make sure Simon's all good. But hey, Macro Perspective Pod, this is a great conversation. We'll probably have more conversations like this. Simon's is on a mission to also start talking to the masses soon. So check him out once we get that information out there. But Simon, thank you so much for the time. We'll get all the details in the show notes for you. But Macro Perspective Pods, we are out.
Thank you so much.